I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So, happy Friday. We have a pretty light day news-wise today, but I have some Russia updates for you guys and a few other stories, so let's go ahead and jump into it. First up for today, we are discussing a fire at an NYPD evidence center, destroying decades worth of evidence. DNA, fingerprints, blood splatter, these things can make or break a case in court. Juries need to hang their hat on something physical, as we know, evidence that definitively ties a suspect to the scene of a crime. Physical evidence that shows how the crime went down. And how does the police store such critical artifacts? Well, in their storage facilities, of course, and one of those storage facilities, unfortunately, in Brooklyn, New York, just happened to catch fire. The fire was so large at this facility with giant plumes of smoke rising out of it that the fire chief, John Hotchins, said that all the evidence inside would either be damaged or destroyed. About 140 firefighters rushed to the scene, even using helicopters and emergency vehicles. It's still unclear how this fire got started, and it's going to take some time before they can really locate the origin and the cause of the fire. There were also reportedly a ton of combustibles inside the building, so this made it extra dangerous for the firefighters to try and get in there to calm the flames. Officials say the fire will likely take days to put out, and there's no telling how many cases this fire will impact. Some go back as far as 30 years. Legal aid groups, however, are already speaking out, prepared to hold the NYPD accountable for reviewing exactly what evidence was damaged and exactly how something like this could have ever happened. Because at the end of the day, an event like this, it endangers us all. And next up for today, we have some Russia-Ukraine updates for you guys. So first in news when it comes to the war is that the U.S. is sending Ukraine some of its top defense systems. These are machines used to target missiles and drones and basically protect those on the ground from danger in the air. They are called Patriot batteries, and operating them requires 90 plus people. And the Ukrainians are just not trained on these machines yet. So the U.S. has been hesitant to send them over because if we had to send American troops to educate the Ukrainians on how to use them, then that would certainly be interpreted as direct American involvement. And again, the goal here is protection. If Ukraine wasn't being attacked, these machines would be useless. So they're simply there for defense. But that doesn't mean that Russia isn't pissed about it. Their foreign ministry has already sent out a stark warning yesterday saying that they would interpret the U.S. sending Patriot batteries as a, quote, provocative move, end quote. But the thing is, the Russian official went on to say that the move, quote, could possibly entail consequences, end quote. She did not give any specifics here on what those consequences might be for the US or for Ukraine. And Russia is kind of one for empty threats, but the US said that this comment would have no effect on our plans to support Ukraine, but it's still definitely alarming. As we know, Russia has been using missiles as their main form of terror in Ukraine because they haven't really been able to make much advancement on the ground. In fact, they've been backsliding, as we've been covering, and the missiles have been their only real way to kind of lash out against Ukraine in their frustration. But they may be adding some other deadly methods to their playbook. So Russia is basically setting booby traps, if you will. Back in May, Russia took hold of a Ukrainian town called Popsana. And now, based on satellite imagery, it seems that they are digging trenches around the town. The trenches are called tank traps and would kind of force Ukrainian troops to use certain roads in order to access this town, where the Russians would be laying in wait to easily hit the incoming Ukrainian troops. But this is not the only way that Russia is setting traps in order to protect their Ukrainian territory. They've also set up rows of concrete barriers known as dragon's teeth along a river to prevent Ukrainian troops from crossing it. They've also set up a different form of trench designed for troops to use, basically with structures called pillboxes that soldiers can kind of get into and shoot from safely. So this is not obviously a good development, but it's just sort of the latest form of Russia trying to hold on to any territory that they can. Meanwhile, though, Russian propaganda is telling their people that they are winning this war. The New York Times reported that Russian TV is claiming to its millions of viewers that Russia is in fact winning the war in Ukraine, despite the fact that their troops have been retreating consistently now for some time. What they do is they handpick U.S. news reports, largely from Tucker Carlson on Fox News, saying that Western embargoes are working in Russia's favor and that the U.S. may have secret bioweapons in Ukraine, etc. And they twist these reports to fit their narrative, even though the reports are basically repeating falsehoods that Russia began themselves. And for our last story today, we are going over the largest U.S. water supplier declaring a state of emergency. So the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California that provides water to major cities such as Los Angeles and San Diego announced a drought emergency for about 19 million people. They actually already import water from the Colorado River and the northern Sierra Nevada through a group called the State Water Project, according to the AP. And now that supply is being threatened. All the reservoirs are super low due to extensive drought and heat. According to the AP, 75% of all water in Southern California is actually used for irrigating yards and gardens, guys. 75% is just watering people's lawns. So they depend on imported water for that. And now restrictions are going to have to be put into place. Governor Newsom of California called for a 15% reduction in water use last year, but only a 5.2% reduction was achieved, which is definitely now leaving them in a lurch. They're looking into alternatives when it comes to water sources, but as of now, it's looking like some Californians are going to have to opt for a cactus lawn or a cactus garden instead of the lush green lawns that we think of when we think of celebrity homes in LA. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "I cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.